Hey guys, Matt here, at the Brewery. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. It's been a minute. Been really busy. We actually just got back last week from vacation, so it's been interesting just getting my sleep schedule back in order and everything else, and getting some projects done around the house this week. So I haven't had a lot of time to do too much brewing related, but I did have a bunch of stuff that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, I guess, and I wanted to give you guys a quick update on what's been happening. So these two beers I just poured were the collaborations. All three of these actually are the collaborations that I've done recently. This one is the pumpkin cream ale that I brewed with Wally, and kegged. Was the first week of October, so it's been in the keg for a little over a month. Same thing with the Marzen. That was brewed a week from the difference between Wally. I brewed with Gary, and then I brewed with Wally, pretty much a week within each other, and they were kegged at the same time. So these are both have been on the gas for over a month. Marzen has had a good amount of time to lager, and I poured these probably a good 5-10 minutes ago now, and look, they still have a nice bit of a cap on there, so that's cool. And then this is the sample that I pulled probably right before I poured these actually. So 10-15 minutes ago now. This is a sample from the Wee Heavy, the Scotch ale that I brewed with Dennis Pinn. I brewed it with him the week right before, or it was something like 3 days before I went to Disney. So this thing is actually still fermenting. I had an issue with the yeast. I had some old yeast that I threw in there that I thought would have been all right with. I did a starter and it still wasn't enough to get it going. I started getting worried like 2 days before. Actually, no, it was the day before I was getting ready to leave for Disney, and so this thing has been in there for 48, almost 72 hours without anything happening in the airlock. So I was getting worried. Went out and bought a new pack of Scotch ale yeast. It's the OYL 15, I believe, from Omega. And the morning of, we were ready to leave for Disney and started bubbling. So I was like, phew, okay, let's just hope I don't have a blowout. I didn't. That was let's see, October would have been the 21st, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, October 21st is when I brewed it. Started off at 1080. I checked it last week. It was still at 1030, and it was still bubbling. Like there was a couple of bubbles a minute. It's slowed down. It's still bubbling once every little while. But I took another sample, and that's what this is. And it's now down to 1016. So I'm going to give it probably another few days, maybe another week. See if I can get a couple more points out of it. It would be really nice if I can get it closer to where Dennis is. I think he's at 1012. So it'd be nice if I can get another point or two out of it. That would be nice. Let's check this out first, because it was a little bit sweet, being 1030 the last time I checked it. So I'd be curious to see what it's at now. Scotch ale, so it's supposed to be very malt forward. We did use EKG on this, and plenty of it to help chop down some of that sweetness. Oh yeah, it's got a nice sort of malty, caramelly, maybe a little bit of toffee, kind of notes on that. Very malt forward smell on that. Let's check it out. That's nice. It still has a little bit of sweetness to it, which actually I kind of want anyway in the end of this. I don't want this to be a dry beer. It's cleared out nicely too. It's got a nice color on it. It's a little bit lighter than my Marzen is, so that's perfect. But it's got a little bit of an alcohol number on it, very, very slight, and maybe that'll change once it gets cold and carbonated. That definitely affects the way everything balances out. But at 1016 from 1080, it's probably about a 9%er. Yeah, so we'll see if we can get any more out of it. And then we'll go ahead and keg that guy too, because I have room for one more keg in the kegerator. But yeah, so this is Gary's. I'm going to go ahead and try this one first and see how this has come along now that it's lagered for a few weeks. So it's got that nice, it's a very malt forward beer. It's got a nice sort of like maybe like a little bit of a creaminess. It's like a nice smooth malty smell to it. Cheers. That's lovely. That's really, really nice. Really smooth. Pretty good malt forward beer. Not It's not cloying. It's not too sweet at all. That's nice. Yeah, I might give that another maybe week or so, and I'll bottle up some here for Gary because I want him to try this, and I would be curious to see how different it is or similar it is to his beer because we brewed the same thing. Let's go ahead and check at Wally's beer here. This is the pumpkin cream ale. It's got both of his beers impressive. They got a nice cap that's kind of hanging around, and both of them are very clear. So this one, as expected, the pumpkin has definitely died down. The spice presence has died down. What you're left with is a nice, it's a nice crisp, sort of clean smell to it. A little bit of corn, very very cream ale like, but it does have a little hint of sort of that vegetal, maybe a little bit of this lingering around from the spices of that pumpkin. So let's go ahead and check this one out. Cheers. Yeah, that turned out just exactly the way I wanted it to, and I think Wally and I were going for the same thing. We wanted this to be cream ale first, pumpkin second, and that's exactly what this is. Got a little bit of that pumpkin, got very slight on the spices, which is perfect. We didn't want to go crazy with it. We purposely went real light on this one, and that's exactly what came out. So that was nice. If I do this again, I'm not sure that I would change much, if anything. I mean, it's neat to have sort of like a different twist on a cream ale and a different twist on even a pumpkin ale because they're kind of all traditional, it feels like. So this was really different and very cool. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think I might have touched on it in either in the brewing video or maybe right before it, but I have these quick, I don't know what these are called, but Spike Brewing offers these. You put them on the other side of the valve. I don't know if that's in the camera shot. And the pickup tubes connect to it from the other side. Now, my boil kettle, the last time I brewed, which would have been the Wee Heavy, it started dripping from the inside. So like, where it was seated in here, it was dripping out, and I couldn't do anything about it because it was, it was getting ready to do the boil. But as I was doing sort of the recirculating, I could see it dripping out of this fitting. And I just assumed it was probably, because these things have gaskets in them, and I just assumed maybe the gasket went bad in it. Well, when I took the kettle apart to clean it, the one that was leaking didn't have a gasket in it at all. So what's supposed to happen, and I kind of noticed this when I was taking it apart, when you put this in, there's supposed to be a little bit of resistance, and you're pushing it against that washer, and it's got a nice snug fit. And it makes it watertight, so you have a nice flow coming through there. And I should have known better. I don't know what was actually holding this in, because as you can see, I mean, there's that's the good one. So as you can see, this just not holding in there at all. So what I did was I went to Spike Brewing, and they offer these little kits. They get four or six, I think, in some of these. Some of these are 4, some are 6. This one actually gave me 5. So different quantities. I'm not really sure what the thought is of that, but these are different ones. I bought each one of them because I wasn't sure which one it took. So I got the ones for the quick disconnects. Supposedly some of these other ones are for their valves and for their for the false bottom. The smaller ones, which are these are actually for the Herms coil. So if for some reason the Herms coil connections crap out on me, I have extra gaskets. Never a bad thing to have extra gaskets. The slightly bigger ones are for these, and they're a little bit of a pain. So I was just messing around before I started the camera. I put the one in. I'm going to go ahead and put the other one in there. And really, you just I tried to take a little pick to pull it out of there, and it didn't come out very good. So I have these little sort of tweezers, with all my electronic stuff, and that seems to work a lot better. This is actually a stiff one, so I'm going to put a new one in here too. I'm just going to replace them all because I have extras, in the boil kettle at least. And then if I see another one start to leak, I'll just replace all the fitting gasket at the same time. But you sort of just push that in there with these tweezers, and it sits in there, pretty well. There's like a little groove in there, and you just fit it right into that groove, and that's really it. So it's a real easy fix, real cheap fix. I think each one of these was like $2, so not much at all to get a bunch of gaskets. And I mean, that's really, I've had some little bumps with these kettles over the year that I've had them, a year and a half now that I've had them with this system. So, knock on wood, I don't have any around me, knock on plastic, that I don't have any major issues. So far I've had to replace a couple of gaskets, and I've had to replace a sensor and that relay in there, but they've all been cheap fixes. So hopefully it stays that way. So for vacation went to Disney. We were there for 8 days. So real nice to decompress and get away from everything. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, I guess. We were a little bit worried because of the whole mask thing and social distancing and, kind of killing some of the Disney vibe, but it really wasn't that bad. I mean, the crowds were really, really low. I think the capacity in the parks were somewhere between 1/4 to 50%. So plenty of room between people. We never felt like we were ever too close or on top of anybody. The lines for all the rides were really short, so that was nice. We basically just, went in there and, we didn't have to, we had to reserve park time in the parks, but we didn't have to reserve anything else. We pretty much went in and eat wherever we wanted to eat without waiting. We did have a reservation for my birthday dinner, and we were able to go in early, and they sat us down right away. There was no waiting. The rides, I think the most we were ever in a line for a ride was like 20 minutes. So it was really, really cool. Definitely a different way of seeing Disney. I mean, aside from all the, just having the mask in the hotter weather, that was a little bit annoying at times. But we weren't in the parks for long. We were in there for, a couple hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours at the most a day. And we spent plenty of time around the resort and plenty of time in the pool. Didn't have to wear the masks in the pool, thankfully. I guess you would have suffocated if you did that. Wet mask would not have been good. But other than that, everyone was pretty smart. Everyone's, distanced pretty well. Everyone was real respectful of your space, and there was no issues. So, it was a very successful trip, and it was much needed after all the nonsense we've had to deal with this year. Anyway, I'm rambling. Oh, I did want to show you guys. So when I went to Disney, they were having a huge sale on stuff because it was coming to the end of the Food and Wine Festival. So a lot of stuff with our DVC discount and with the Food and Wine discount, everything was like 60% off. So I cleaned up, got a couple of shirts, got this growler, which is cool, nice stainless steel growler. Got this. I'm not really sure what I'm going to use it for, but I thought it was cool. It's a glass, container with a cork on the top of it for the Food and Wine Festival. My first thought was this, but I have I bought like a bunch of those vanilla beans off of a guy on Facebook. My initial thought was to maybe chuck them in here, but I'll find a use for this. Just thought it was neat. It's something different from what I have already. But yeah, that's it. I won't bore you guys any longer. I don't really have anything else. We'll go ahead and end, let's go ahead and end double fisted for the fun of it. And see you guys later. Have a happy Homebrew Wednesday. Take care. Cheers. Those are nice together even. So they sort of complement each other. Cheers.